start our program. First of all, let's pay homage to Supreme Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Dear Dhamma friends, today also we are going to start yet another Dhamma discussion. Today our topic is about the Dhammanupassana, the establishment of mindfulness of mental objects as mental objects. So let's see this topic. In the discourses like the Great Discourse on the establishment of mindfulness, the contemplation on mental objects as mental objects is given in fivefold. They are the contemplation on hindrances, the contemplation on aggregates, the contemplation on bases, the contemplation on factors of enlightenment, and the contemplation on the noble truths. So this fourth type of mindfulness meditation has 5 different subjects. So what we are going to discuss today is about the first one, the contemplation on hindrances. And rest of the 4 subtopics are not described in this particular book. So we will be able to discuss the first one, the contemplation on the hindrances. So according to the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, discourse on the establishment of mindfulness, these 5 types of Dhammanupassana meditation is described. So so far that we have discussed the first 3 types of mindfulness meditation. So then let's see the first subject or the first topic of this, the Dhammanupassana meditation. It is about hindrances. I hope that you all are familiar with this word, the Nivarana. So the Nivarana Vidarshana, the contemplation on hindrances. There are 5 hindrances as follows: sensual desire, ill will, laziness and sleepiness, restlessness and doubt. They are the obstructions which obstruct the practitioner to arouse and gain jhana, paths, and fruitions. Nobody can gain jhana and other things without extermination of hindrances. It is because of hindrances that even monks who have abundant temples and who have great expectation go to the woods to practice and strive hard for years, bearing many difficulties, but yet cannot gain even the neighborhood concentration. So the Nivarana means something that covers, that obstructs the path of the jhanas and higher attainments. So that is why it is called Nivarana. So there are 5 Nivaranas which obstructs, which hinder our spiritual development. So according to the teachings of the Buddha, it is a must to suppress or exterminate these hindrances to get jhanas, and not only jhanas, the higher paths and fruitions as well, the marga phala. They are called Uttaraminis Dhamma, Uttara Manusa Dhamma. So it is very important to understand about these hindrances. Without having pretty good understanding about these hindrances, it's difficult to control these hindrances and get the development of the mindfulness. So many practitioners who are full of hindrances even do not know that they have hindrances. Some monks who simply give up the lifestyle of the temple and go to the woods think that they are purified. Such a monk who does not gain concentration because of hindrances thinks differently. This is one of the factors that many practitioners repeatedly mistaken. Forget about this dispelling of the hindrances. Even some do not understand that they are in themselves, because that itself is difficult. However, these hindrances are to be subdued by the practitioner. Without doing so, however much time you stay in the woods, bear up difficulties and meditate, you may never get the expected results. Thereby, every practitioner should pay special attention to hindrances. That is why the contemplation on hindrances has been given as a method of meditation. So it says that one who expect to get the spiritual development, it is a must to understand about these hindrances, how these hindrances arise, what are the conditions that multiply these the hindrances, and the factors that eliminate or subdue these the hindrances. Without having good understanding about these hindrances, it's difficult to get the spiritual development. As this Venerable Thero explains, even monks who goes to the forest monasteries, still that they have these hindrances, but it's difficult to attain jhanas and higher attainments because of these hindrances. And sometimes those who try to practice the spiritual practices like meditation, they even don't know about these hindrances. So it is difficult to attain higher spiritual attainments. So let's see the first one, the hindrance of sensual desire. The sensual desire is the craving that arises through the objects, persons or actions that pleases the sense basis. Sensual desire arises more and more regarding food, drink, clothing, ornament, vehicle, and money. It arises badly regarding pleasant persons and some actions. It is to be said that, in general, sensual desire arises from anything that you see to your eyes and hear through your ears. It is the sensual desire for all that becomes an obstruction for those who have gone to the woods by abandoning everything, including their spouse, children, and wealth. Sensual desire is the greatest enemy of the state of tranquility. So the sensual desire means that any object that pleases our craving. So whatever we experience through our senses, like we see the pleasant things through our eyes and hear pleasant voices or noise, like that, all the five senses, whatever we experience, the pleasant objects, it increase the desire, the sensual desire, or the kama chanda. If you go to deep or the ultimate realities, that we can find the lobha chittas. Lobha chittas that we can find as hindrances when they develop and when they obstruct the spiritual development. So it is a very important fact that anybody who wish to develop the spiritual practices, they have to understand this. they have to clarify how these hindrance or the sensual desire arise in them and how they obstruct the spiritual development. So if some person, or if one does not understand this sensual desire as a hindrance or obstruction to the spiritual development, what happens is that the particular person would become a slave for these sensual desires. So for a Buddhist, it is a must to understand this sensual desire. So then only that he can develop the spiritual path or spiritual practices. Of numerous sensual desires that are connected to numerous objects, the worst hindrance for the practitioner is a sensual desire for all. Most of us even do not know the presence of such thing. Nevertheless, it is resolutely available in all of us, whether men, women, ascetics, ladies, all old and the young. It is because of the sensual desire for all that people cannot stay at one place while doing something or other, or not, but need to wander in many places in the world, seeing the world. It is a fire. Since they cannot stop providing fuel for the fire, they wander here and there, providing fuel to the fire of sensual desire. Whatever new things you see are fuel for the sensual desire. So if we closely look at in the world, so everything is produced to gratify these sensual desires. Whatever you see in the marketplace or wherever, all these things are made to gratify the sensual desires, or this particular hindrance. So it is very important to understand about this sensual desire. So it says that it is a fire that beings always want to go to places, see different things, and experience some different experiences. It is just because of this fire of sensual desire. The sensual desire for all within oneself starts to fire up when one is not observing things around oneself, not seeing things for whatever has been done or undone by others, or simply by keeping completely silent. Being unable to bear this flame, one goes to see the world as the means of extinguishing. Then find persons to talk. With this, for a moment, the fire of sensual desire, having received food, comes to the extinction. How adversely effective this sensual desire can be understood only when one has no special thing to see and no person around to talk with. That is quite an unbearable suffering for man. That suffering is the flaming of sensual desire. So this explains how it makes persons difficult because of the fire of the sensual desire. When the man cannot quench sensual desire by observing the world, wandering here and there, then in him or her arise numerous thoughts. Even meaningless thoughts arise because of sensual desire. It is because of the sensual desire that the practitioner's mind starts to distract and grasps unless objects and starts to ponder without being on the meditation object. Therefore, it is to be understood that sensual desire is the greatest obstruction of the most difficult hindrance for the practitioners to eradicate. For ladies who have not abandoned the desire for wealth, sons and wife, etc., as well as the monastics who have not abandoned their desire for temples, etc., also have sensual desire, and it is an obstruction. In order to abandon the obstruction of sensual desire, practitioners should think of sensual desire. This is how it is to be done. First, one should investigate whether there is sensual desire or not in oneself. This presence of sensual desire is not the availability of sensual desire at the time of observing it. It is not the availability of sensual desire that was completely extirpated by total eradication. This presence of sensual desire means the arising of sensual desire as a hindrance to one's state of tranquility. If it does not arise frequently, means that there is no sensual desire. If it is arising in one's mind, it is to be considered that there is sensual desire. If it does not arise frequently but under the state of subdued, then the negation of sensual desire is to be understood as it is. The same is true to understand the absence of presence of any other hindrances too. So when you are mindful, you can understand whether you have this hindrance in your mind as well. Sometimes there may be some desires towards these objects which gratify your sensual desires. Then you have to understand, okay, there is sensual desire, and you have to do necessary steps to eliminate that desire. So time to time it can appear, as long as you are keep in touch with the teachings of the Buddha, that you can subdue, you can suppress these sensual desires. But if you are not practicing some spiritual practices like meditation or something, then there will be more the sensual desires arising in your mind. So it is, you have to understand that when these sensual desires arise in your mind and when it is not. While practicing meditation, if the mind is not concentrated but toggles to many different objects, that itself is the sign of presence of sensual desire. Having contemplated upon sensual desire, if it is present, one should understand as it is present. If absent, it is to be understood as absent. Then the causes for the unarisen sensual desire and the causes for the cessation of arisen sensual desire are to be contemplated upon. How abundant sensual desire would be completely cut off so that it would never arise in one's mind is also to be contemplated. This is the meditation on sensual desire. Once the Buddha said, "Monks, there is a pleasant object. It is because of frequent unwise attention upon pleasant object that unarisen sensual desire arises, and the arisen sensual desire is increased." Atti bhikkhave subha nimittang tatta ayoniso manasikaro bahulīkāro ayamāhāro anuppannasva kāmacchandassa uppannasva kāmacchandassa bhiyo bhavāya vepullāya. So the subha nimitta, the pleasant object and unwise attention. When you experience a pleasant object, if you don't pay, if you do not have wise attention, yoniso manasikare, the understanding the object's true nature, as unpleasant and impermanent and non-self. So if you don't have that the wise attention or the yoniso manasikare, which means then you have probably unwise attention and take the objects as pleasant, which means you develop the unarisen, the sensual desire. And when you keep doing it, it increases the arisen sensual desire. When there is sensual desire for one thing, if one does not abandon it and contemplates the danger of it, but accept it and let it seek what it is required and act as wanted, sensual desire for many things will definitely arise. Suppose a bhikkhu who is aloof, completely secluded, in him arises sensual desires. To seek a disciple, a second person for his loneliness, then in him arise more and more sensual desires. To provide his disciple many things like food, drink, clothing, and medicine. Having understood the danger of the first arisen sensual desire, if it is abundant, then the following many kinds of sensual desires never arise. All this happens because of welcoming the first sensual desire. This is why it is taught that because of frequent unsuitable contemplation on sensual desire, as unarisen sensual desire arise. So when you experience the sensual desire or the pleasant object, you have to be mindful not to be not to develop unwise attention. Then if you are not mindful, then probably you will experience it as pleasant object, then the permanent object, and like soul. So then you develop unknowingly this sensual desire. So as it explains here, and if you don't understand it at the first place, it can arise as a huge sensual desire. It links to some other so many desires. In some other sutras, I remember it says like in the forest, if you light a small spark, then if you do not extinguish it with your hands or something else, there'll be a disaster. There'll be a huge fire in the forest. So like that, at the very first place that you have to understand it and decrease and eliminate the first thought of sensual desire. Otherwise, it will grow up to the level that you can't control. So it is true that whatever desires forms for women, men, or other, there's a gratification, but there are a lot of dangers as well. Having neglected upon their part of danger as impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and soullessness, simple contemplation upon only the nature of permanence, happiness, and selfness is the unsuitable contemplation upon the desirous objects. Then unarisen sensual desire arises, and the arisen sensual desire arises. So that's the worldly people's unstructured worldling's nature. Whatever you experience, you take them as the permanent and happiness and like that. So then what happens is you develop the sensual desires. When it is frequently and properly contemplated upon the improper jhana, asubha jhana, and the object with wise attention and unarisen sensual desire does not arise, and the arisen sensual desire disappears, and it never increase or arise again and again. Atti bhikkave asubha nimittang tatta yoniso manasikara bahulīkāro ayamāhāro anuppannasava kāmacchandassa anupadāya. Uppannasava kāmacchandassa pahānāya na bhiyo bhavāya. So you have to understand the objects, their true nature with wise attention, yoniso manasikara. If not, the unarisen sensual desire can arise, and arisen sensual desire can increase. Whatever causes for the arising of sensual desire, like the forms of women, men, etc., are also in the nature of impermanence, unsatisfactory, and without the self. When contemplate upon their nature of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and soullessness, sensual desire on them never arise. Arisen sensual desire also disappears. Therefore, it is said that when properly contemplated upon the improper object, unarisen sensual desire never arise. So as we've discussed before, the worldlings, worldly people, what they do is they take objects as permanent and satisfactory or happy. But what we have to do is, or those who are interested in the spiritual development, they have to take the objects as impermanent and unsatisfactory and soulless. Only then that we can control this enemy of the spiritual development, which is called sensual desire. Taking repulsive object for the mind, meditation on repulsiveness, guarding the six senses, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, moderation of eating, associating with good friends, and speak on what is suitable, beneficial, are also considered as causes for the disappearance of sensual desire. Taking 10 repulsive objects, dasa asubha, into the mind is a cause for the disappearance of sensual desire. Taking repulsive objects for mind means you train your mind until you see them. For the one who meditates on repulsiveness, sensual desire does not arise. Guarding the six senses means whenever the presence of desirable and undesirable object, being fully aware of it's so that there never arise defilements based neither upon craving nor upon repulsiveness. For that person also disappears sensual desire. The one who never overeats but contemplatively eats moderately, for such a person too reduces the arising of sensual desire. For one who practices meditation on repulsiveness and associates with good friends, she also sees the disappearance of sensual desire. Profitable talk for the disappearance of sensual desire are the talk on 10 repulsiveness. One of the best ways to dissipate sensual desire is talking about and listening to the talks on repulsiveness. As said, having subdued an abundant sensual desire, the practitioner who is engaged in meditation attains arahanthood by cutting off sensual desire forever. So these are the six factors that we have to develop to terminate this enemy or this obstruction, which is called hindrance. The first one is taking repulsive objects for the mind. So in the Kayanupassana meditation, I think you have heard that there are 40 meditation subjects. Among them, there are 10 repulsiveness meditation. For an example, there are 9 stages of a dead body, uddumataka, something like that. There are 9 stages of a dead body that we have to contemplate. And there are 32 parts of the repulsive parts of our body that we have to contemplate. And taking those objects to the mind and practice meditation on those repulsive objects are the 2 of the factors that we can eliminate the sensual desire. And guarding the 6 senses as well. Whatever the objects that we experience, we have to be mindful. Then moderation of eating. So it is also a factor that can arise the sensual desire. Associating with good friends, kalyana mitta, it is also very important in the Buddhist spiritual path. As you all know, all the Buddhist spiritual practices depend on the kalyana mitta, having good friends. Speak on what is suitable, beneficial are also considered. So the profitable talk is also very important to reduce or terminate this enemy of the spiritual development of which is called the sensual desire. So these are the factors that we all are supposed to learn and practice in our day-to-day life. Only then that we can subdue, that we can decrease this sensual desire. Otherwise, it will be always dominative in our mind, these sensual desires. So that is about the first hindrances. So anything to be discussed regarding this topic that we've discussed so far?
Avasrai Bante, what was
Yes.
the 5th and the 6th? After association of noble friends, then the 5th one was?
5th one is, it is associating with good friends. Let me read from the beginning. Taking repulsive object from the mind, for the mind, that's the first one.
Yep.
Then meditation on repulsiveness, that's the second one.
Yep.
Then guarding the 6 senses, moderation of eating, then associating with good friends, and the 6th one is the suitable talk or the profitable talk.
Suitable.
Those are the 6 factors that we can develop within us, and these factors helps to decrease the sensual desire.
Thank you, Bante.
Yes. Okay, then let's move on to the next one. The hindrance of ill will. The nature of unpleasantness or aversion towards any person, object, or an action is ill will. Hate, resentment, revenge, anger, and fear, meaning the same. Since it is an obstruction for the gaining of jhana, it is called the hindrance of ill will. When a person meditates with hate or aversion with another, from time to time his mind inclines towards his opponent. Then he forgets his meditation. Therefore, hate is an obstruction for meditation. The practitioners who are disenchanted with samsara and extending loving friendliness and live in the woods have no hatred of others. Therefore, such practitioners have no obstruction of ill will. So anybody would try to practice, can experience these things, because whenever you try to practice meditation, these hindrances come to your mind, either sensual desire or ill will, or the hindrances that we are going to discuss later as well. So that is why that we have to learn these hindrances. So when we learn about the ultimate realities, so that we can find there are two hatred chittas. So those, in ultimate sense, those two hatred chittas are that we can find as hindrance of ill will. Therefore, such practitioners have no ideas. For some people, when they live in the woods or any other secluded place, in them arises fear. That is a hindrance of ill will. So fear also, the ill will or the hatred. Because of hatred, the fear arises. For some practitioners, because of not receiving enough food and many other reasons, a lot of suffering arises. Because of those suffering, they become unhappy. That is also the hindrance of ill will. For the dedicated practitioners, when they do not get the desired results, they become unhappy about them. Then teachers, their attendants on their meditation, and even their own virtue that they observe. That is also the hindrance of ill will. The person who meditates with fear does not get concentration. And the person who meditates with unhappy mind also does not get concentration. Therefore, fear and unhappiness that arises for aforementioned factors also will be the hindrance of ill will. So whenever unhappiness, when you experience unhappiness, which means there is this hindrance of ill will. So it is very subtle ways that can appear in our mind.
Excuse Bante.
Yes.
So, because it at the introduction, it used the word resentment as well.
Yes.
So, as an example, I resent the cold weather. So, is that also a type of ill will?
Yes, if you are not mindful, when you feel that resentment, you can be mindful about that. Otherwise, it'll increase as a ill will, as a hindrance.
Mm.
So
So it's
whatever,
extremely subtle.
yes, whenever you experience unhappiness, which means there is ill will. And fear as well. Fear is also the ill will, the hatred. And so, yes, that is why I said that it is very subtle.
Okay, thank you.
It's all right. Yeah, it can appear as when you observe your virtue as well, as it mentions here. When you're not happy about your virtue or about your practice meditation, it is also, in the ultimate sense, it is also the hatred.
That is so when you're not satisfied with your own positiveness,
yes,
in a way that is a negative aspect.
yes, when you contemplate your virtues and whatever you do, if you feel unhappy.
So when we are unhappy with the amount of study we do, that also becomes ill will.
Sort of, yes. Yeah, I mean, in subtle stage, it will not bother you or hinder your spiritual practice. But if you are not mindful, it will increase, and it'll be a hurdle for your practices.
But if you try to channel it in a positive way to find the time to study more, as an example.
Yes, yes. And I think you might have heard that there's a sutra that there are 10 factors that can arise the hatred in our mind. Dasa Agatavattu. Have you listened to that
No,
discourse?
No, Band.
Okay, then we'll discuss it maybe next week. I'll find the sutra and we'll try to discuss. It'll be beneficial then. The practitioner should contemplate on the hindrance of ill will according to the foresaid factors, and investigate and understand whether there is ill will in his mind or is not. Thereupon he should contemplate upon the availability or unavailability of the causes of arising and passing of this hindrance of ill will. It is because of unwise attention on hatred as well as the objects such as persons involved in hatred, unarisen hindrance of ill will arises. And the arisen hindrance of ill will increases again and again and comes to growth. Atti bhikkhave patiga nimittang tatta ayonso mansikara bahulikaro ayamaharo anupannasva vyapada nivaranasa uppadaya. Uppannasva vyapada nivaranasa bhiyo bhava vipula. When hatred arises towards a particular person, it arises again and again towards him whenever he sees him or ponders upon him. Sometimes hatred arises upon those who have connections with him or her. While you are with hatred, hatred arises towards the persons even who come to see you or talk with you. This happens again and again to the person who does not contemplate upon the first glimpse of hatred with wise attention and abundance. It dissipates to the person who contemplates wisely, as it is a great harmful thing. And if let it grow, would be certainly harmful. And so on and so forth. Therefore, it is said that frequent wise contemplation upon hatred is a cause of the cessation of ill will. Thinking of only the negative side of their opponents is the nature of many in the world. Even their positive things then often think only as negatives. That is a wrong contemplation on the opponents. It reinforces one's hatred. Everybody has both good qualities as well as bad qualities. There is none who has no qualities. In him who sees the good qualities of others arises only less hatred. Contemplation upon only the bad qualities of others is an unwise contemplation upon the objects, which cause for hatred. Frequent wise contemplation upon the release of mind towards metta, loving friendliness, is a cause for the unarisen ill will, cessation of the arisen ill will, and the complete termination of ill will. So the practicing metta bhavana is a factor that we can decrease the hatred and wise attention as well.
Here
Yes.
it says, in him who sees good qualities of others arises only less hatred.
Yes,
So,
yeah,
what is the meaning of that?
Yeah, it means that the enemies, those who we don't like, when the natural or the normal nature of the being is always to contemplate the bad qualities of those people that we don't like. but that we have to try to see their good qualities as well. Yes.
That will reduce the hatred.
Reduce the hatred, yes.
Yeah.
That's what it means. So the metta means loving friendliness, and metta ceto vimutti means the consciousness based on metta jhana. Contemplating on this means contemplation upon the results of it. For one who contemplates the results of loving friendliness, hatred dissipates. Therefore, it was taught that frequent contemplation properly upon the release of mind, of metta, is the cause for the complete cessation of ill will. Practicing metta as the object for meditation repeatedly maintenance of developed metta contemplation of one's ownership of karma, frequent knowledge that one is the owner of one's karma, having good friends and suitable talks are the 6 factors which are conducive to the destruction of ill will. So the object for meditation repeatedly maintenance of developed metta contemplation and one's ownership of karma. So the contemplation on karma, it is also very important to reduce the hatred, because if we develop hatred towards someone, which means that we generate unwholesome karmas, which that we will have to face the consequences. So by contemplating in that such a way that we can reduce the hatred, frequent knowledge that one is the owner of one's karma. So that is also quite same, that whatever we do, good or bad, we'll have to face the consequences. And we have to contemplate it all the time. Having good friends and suitable talks are the 6. Yes, as we discussed before, having good friends is also very important, and suitable talk, profitable talk, that which reduce the hatred. So as we discussed before, when we discuss about things, that we can discuss the good qualities of those who we don't like. Otherwise, if we only discuss the bad things about the others, the hatred can be increased in our minds. For the person who practices the maintenance and maintains metta, extending it using one of the 3 methods by classifying beings towards all beings, or to all beings in the directions, or either practicing of all the 3 methods, or one of them, and repeatedly continues the development of metta towards all beings, the hindrance of ill will dissipates. So there are some ways that we can develop metta, like directions, like all the beings in the north, that we can contemplate and spread the loving kindness thoughts, like that, the directions, based on directions. And like beings, the small ones, medium and bigger ones, like Karaniya Metta Sutra explains, in that manner also, that we can spread loving kindness. So in all these ways that we can develop metta, which means we can decrease the ill will or the hatred. Beings angry with him, what can I do? Being angry with him, what can I do? Can I destroy his virtue, etc.? As I came to this world according to my karma, I will go to the next world according to my karma. Being angry with others is like grabbing a hot piece of iron or any dirty thing to give a blow to others. Being angry with me, what can he do for me? However much he gets angry, he can never destroy my virtue, etc. He also has come to this world according to his karma and will be going to the next world according to his karma. His unaccepted anger by me is like an unaccepted gift or some husks of rice that were thrown against the wind that would hit upon his own head. For the one who thinks in such way about one's own karma and the karma of others as well also dissipates the hindrance of ill will. For the one who thinks that everyone is the owner of his or her own karma, as the knowledge of the ownership of karma, the hindrance of ill will dissipates. For the one who always meditates on metta, has physical, verbal, and mental actions based on metta and associates with good friends, dissipates the hindrance of ill will. For the one who would always listen to the talks based on metta and talks about metta, dissipates the hindrance of ill will. The hindrance of ill will that was dissipated through these 6 factors could be completely cut off with the achievement of the state of non-returner. So the non-returner or the anagami stage that we can completely eradicate the anger until there'll be anger. But for the nobles, those who entered the higher spiritual status like so on, though they have the anger, it is not capable of doing unwholesome things or breaking precepts. They have a subtle anger, but still they have anger, but it's not danger like the worldly beings. So the worldly beings, the Putujjanas, anger is very dangerous. If they can't control it, they can do any kind of harm, killing, or whatever they can do. So this is about the second hindrance, which is called ill will. So I think the rest of the hindrances that we can discuss next week. So anything to discuss about what we've discussed so far? If not, I can briefly discuss that the sutra that Aghata Pativinaya, there are 10 factors that can arise the anger in.
This one.
Yes, let's see. So in that particular sutra, as I remember, it explains 10 factors, 10 ways that anger can appear. For an example, the particular person who thinks some person or enemy, he did bad things in the past, he hurt me, something like that, then he arise anger. And when he does present moment or now, he thinks, okay, he do bad things for me now, then he gets angry. And again, he thinks about the future as well. So he did in the past, he is doing now, and he will do it in the future as well. So he's thinking in that way that he would develop anger. Then it is about his friend, one can think, okay, someone did some bad things to my friend. And when he thinks about that, he would develop anger, hatred. And if he does now, he thinks, okay, he's hurting my friend now, and get angry, develop anger. And he thinks, okay, now he did bad things for my friend in the past, and he's doing now, and he will do it in the future as well. So he thinks those 3 times in the past, present, and future. When he thinks in these ways, that he develops anger. So then it is about the enemy. So one can think, okay, someone helps my enemy in the past. Then when he thinks that way, he develops anger. And he thinks, okay, he's now helping my enemy. So then he develops anger. And he thinks someone helps my enemy in the past, present, and he will do it in the future as well. And when he thinks in these ways, he develops anger. And there are 9 ways about the past, future, present, and the future. About oneself, about friend, and enemy. Then there is another one, as Mahinda Mahatma explained earlier, like when it is too cold, one get angry. Too
Yes.
hot, too much raining, something like that. There are 10 factors about someone can develop anger.
So Bhante, in all those situations, it commences, the present and the future is always, it appears to be linked to that past perception of the anger, which then gets interpreted into the present and imagined into the future.
Yes, and that the example is that one thinks about past means that yes, somebody does something bad in the past.
Yeah. Because we remember it as a bad thing, then
Yeah.
after that everything flows from there.
Yeah, we develop anger.
Anger.
Yes, and he thinks about the future as well at the same.
Yeah.
So those are the ways that beings get angry, which means develop this particular hindrance, anger. And there are many stories that beings, and even today, if you look the news, if you watch the newspapers or whatever, you know that if there's killings going on or beating up, or they are because of this hindrance.
And so if we take something like how we say, I resent the cold, to try and avoid that way of thinking, I have to accept for the cold just as it is, rather than having some sort of dislike for it.
Yes, and yes, if we deeply contemplate that, when we all have studied Abhidham, as I hope you all, some certain extent. So there is a rootless resultant chitta, ahetuka vipaka chitta. So we've learned dukkha sahagata kaya viññāni, right? So when whatever the reason, if we feel like bodily pain or unpleasant experience, according to that, as I explained, the chitta, it is a resultant of something that we have done in the past.
Yes.
So that is why that particular chitta appears. Not only that, and the kusala, the wholesome chitta as
Wholesome
well.
chitta,
Yes, there are both. So in the ultimate sense, that is, but it is deep. You have to understand much more things. For an example, like someone who does, okay, then all the things just because of karma or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's not so. But in the ultimate sense, that's the reality. That's the thing. And that we can understand, okay, if it is called, yes, then it is the the elements that we learn. It is tejo dhatu, the heat element, right? Yes, heat element. Even the cold is in the heat element. It includes, yes. So it is heat element, and you can't control it. You can some certain extent, like
dress properly and
dress properly, yes, and go to a suitable place. There is a suitable environment or something like that, and understanding in these things, and at least you understand, okay, this is, if you develop resentment, okay, this is a hindrance, sort of hindrance that I develop in my heart. So itself, it'll be helpful you to reduce that. So the best.
this conversation in understanding it also is very good
Yes,
starting point.
yes. If not always unknowingly, we develop these hindrances.
Because they're very subtle. So unless we pay a lot of attention, we don't even know.
Yes.
We are in a ill will situation.
Ill will or the sensual desire. These two are the most dominant. That is why we got.
In terms of sensual desire, now something like we were talking about food and moderation. So when one is hungry, the desire to eat, is that also a form of sensual desire?
Yes, according to these teachings, whatever the desire we have is a sensual desire.
Because it's from the senses, from the
yes,
senses.
Yes. But there is a way that we can use whatever we use, the way that the sensual desire would not increase. For an example, I think you know that the monks, when we use food and robes or whatever, we have to contemplate what is the main purpose of using this. Like that, it's not compulsory for lay people, but those who try to practice some spirituality, that they can contemplate in such a way that reduce your sensual desires.
And the hunger in terms of, if you contemplate it as simply nourishing your body.
Yes, exactly, to survive, just for the survival. Yes.
Rather than something to seek pleasure or...
Yes. But it is not prohibited for lay people, but if you are strictly try to practice some spirituality, that you have to concern about that.
Because if the practice has to be consistent, isn't it, Bhante? Otherwise, you cannot...
yes, there won't be any progress. Yes.
Yeah. It has to be in every aspect that you have to have the moderation.
Yes. So these two, the sensual desire and the ill will, is most dominant emotions in the karma world, karma realm. That is why it is called karma loka. lot of problems because of these hindrances. There's something called bahusadharana kama vastu. The sensual objects, these objects are common for a lot of beings, maybe even single object. So because of that, there are a lot of problems. Everybody likes all those pleasant objects, so they quarrel sometimes, as it explains.
Bhante, though we term these as hindrances to meditation, the very act of meditating itself can lead to the reduction of the hindrance. Is it not?
Yes, we are yet to discuss, like there are some other hindrances as well, like sloth and torpor, sleepiness, doubts, like that. There are some of the three hindrances that we are yet to discuss. Which obstructs our spiritual practices.
Even the two we discussed, Bhante, if during the time of meditation, if you are able
Yeah,
to...
it depends. It depends how much that you have practiced or improved your meditation. For example, if you're a beginner, you can experience more hindrances. The mind always goes here and there, something like that. But when you develop to some certain extent, there will be less hindrances. Yes. Okay, then we can wind up here today.
Yes, Bhante.
Okay, so so today that we all discuss this noble Dhamma and about hindrances. So we generated enormous amounts of wholesome thoughts in our hearts. So let's let's dedicate these merits to our departed ones. Dhammi ñāti nang hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idhammi ñāti nang hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Let's transfer merits to the devas as well. Itthavata amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Itthavata amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Itthavata amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Let's wish, by the power of these virtues, these merits that we've generated right now, lead us to supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu.
Okay, තෙරුවන් සරණයි හැම දිනාටම.
Therun Sarnai Bhante.